Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. This is where we have culturally relevant conversations from a global perspective, talking about things that are happening in culture, society, arts, music. Today, we want to reflect a little bit about, you know, African American history. It's Black History Month, right? February. And we always take this time to um, amplify the legacy of Black people in America who have made significant contributions to our society. We like to, because we're global, extend that recognition to, Pan Africa, all across the diaspora, because the struggle continues. What's interesting today, right, as we commemorate Black History Month, although as a footnote here, we do celebrate Black history all year long. Okay. But February is, Black History Month. Educator G. Carter Woodson created it as Negro History Week. Back in the day, I think in the 20s, you can look at the Miseducation of the Negro, which is the essential reading for your library. And as he explains why we need to amplify the voice of the Black people in America, because oftentimes our story is not told, or it's told from a muted perspective. That's why we say around here, we have to tell our own stories. And so as we move forward and we contemplate Black History Month, you'll see some portraits of figures that I got from the African Ancestry Wall on our different social media. I was over there in Ghana, and really had an opportunity to immerse myself in history, Black history from a global perspective. But as we take this time to, amplify and lift up and commemorate Black History Month, there's this debate raging in America about African American history. Should African American history be taught in schools? There's a debate about critical race theory. There is all of this conversation, even such where governments, local and state governments, are beginning to ban or restrict the teaching of African American history. Now, I'm not a teacher, I'm not an educator. I think, I'm looking for some of my intellectuals, my academics to come on with me someday so we can begin to take this notion apart and put it back together. But it seems to me that when these states and these institutions begin to ban African American history, they're saying that the history from a Black perspective is not relevant to the national consciousness. That's what it's saying to me. So as an example, we may agree and see and learn in class that Ben Franklin was a hero, a champion of democracy, a founding father, a framer of the Constitution, a founding father of these United States of America. We may celebrate that. He's on the money. But we do not amplify the fact that he was also a slaveholder, right? It's interesting, that the Black perspective within the fabric of American history is muted. People don't want to hear about it. They don't want their feelings hurt, I guess. So I guess the notion is that we don't want to present curriculum that make people feel bad. Well, okay. Do y'all not think I feel bad when I watch the dogs being unleashed on Black people during the 1963 March on Selma, Bloody Sunday, Rodney King, Tulsa Massacre, lynchings? This is the thread of America from a Black perspective. And Now that we have traveled to Ghana a couple of times and we, on our platform, have a global view of our existence as Black people, um, when I'm in Western Africa and I see the ginormous slave dungeons, I walk the male slave dungeon, I walk the female slave dungeon, I hear the history, the stories. I go to the last bath where captives were given their last bath before being marched into the slave market. There are spaces all up and down the western coast of Africa that have this legacy. These monuments are still standing, these reminders of, slavery, the business of slavery. The transatlantic slave trade was a massive financial institution that shipped not only here to America, but to the Caribbean, to South America for hundreds of years. And these ginormous castles, or we call them dungeons, because that's exactly what they are, complete with the door of no return, where the captives were taken through these doors to board ships to get, you know, over to the Americas. The legacy of that, somebody, if you are an American descendant of slaves, somebody in your DNA, your direct bloodline, made that trek from Western Africa across the Middle Passage, the Atlantic Ocean, into America, and then endured whatever horrors of slavery when, at their owners' expense, hundreds of years. We have stories that, our oral history that are whispered among our generations, right, of survival here in America. Well, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. However, the fact of the matter is, the evidence is that these things happened. And so then why not include these stories in the lexicon of American history? And yes, by all means, catalog it as African American history, because it is. It's not a game, I don't think society in America should be about erasing our history, erasing our culture. I also am of the thought that perhaps, just maybe, since these governments are banning African American history, there's this debate about critical race theory. Maybe our cultural institutions within the community should be the ones that are about advancing curriculum to teach our generations about history. There's many, many stories out there that contribute to the quote unquote greatness of America. But at the same time, there's many, many stories that form the pavement of the road that you are on. Your ancestors, your descendants, your predecessors in America. What was it like? It's a divinely appointed reckoning that we all have, as wanting to know about ourselves. And to hear systems and the general market, the main, try to suffocate this history is ludicrous. And so why do we wait on them? They're always going to try to suffocate us. Maybe we should teach our children our own. I know a lot of other cultures who have history are, able through their cultural institutions to teach their children about their past. They even have the mantra of never forget. There's many, many cultures that have a past where they have found liberation, whether it's from colonization or, dictators or thus and so global history is rife with stories and cultures that where people have overcome um, the atrocities of humanity. What mankind does to one another is unspeakable in every way, So no, Black people, we have Black America, we have our stories of horror, cruelty, brutality. Cambodia has stories of horror, cruelty, brutality. Europe, I mean, just Armenia. I mean, just go all across the globe. There are global stories about mankind's brutality against mankind. And each of those cultures has a pride, a God given, a divinely appointed responsibility to tell their story, to share their history so that generations will know how they got to here. It is not different for American descendants of slaves. So, therefore, my contemplation is that these education systems, these states, these governments, people should not be so adamant to suffocate African American history. Maybe it's purposeful. They want to keep us in the dark. I don't know. The reason they say is because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't know about that one, y'all. I know one thing, that the road that we trod, stony the road we trod, that's what the song says. Bitter the chastening rod, our Black national anthem. These are the lyrics. This is real, and we should never forget. We should honor those who made history. We should honor those who are in our communities. We should uplift our triumphs and remember the sorrows. God bless y'all. Keep loving one another. We need it now more than ever. Peace and blessings. Black History Month, y'all. Let's go.